Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a pretty hard look at something that affects, well, pretty much everyone online, and that's social media scams. And I'm not just talking about, those obvious ones like the get-rich-quick schemes or anything like that. We're going way deeper than that, really exploring the psychology behind why these scams work and how even the design of the platforms themselves can make us all vulnerable to them.
Yeah. You might think you're way too savvy, to ever fall for something like that. But honestly, like understanding the tactics that these scammers use and the kind of subtle ways they can play on our emotions can be a real eye-opener.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning the secrets of a magician. Like, once you see how the trick is done, it's not as impressive anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have got some fascinating research and real-life examples to unpack today.
Yeah, and we'll also be looking at the role of the social media companies themselves. Like, what are they doing to try and combat this problem? And are they doing enough?
Exactly, because let's face it, these scams are everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your age background, how tech-savvy you think you are. You've probably encountered at least one scam attempt on social media at some point.
Oh, yeah. It's a universal threat.
Oh, for sure.
And it's actually deeply rooted in human history. I mean, scams have always existed.
Wow.
Just using, different tools. Think about, like, con artists from the past.
Yeah.
They relied on, like, face-to-face interactions. But the underlying principles of deception are still the same.
That's a really good point. So the digital age has really just given these scammers a much larger stage and some way more sophisticated tools.
Precisely. Social media platforms have just amplified the reach and impact of scams, turning them into this global phenomenon.
And it's not even all about financial losses when it comes to these scams. I mean, they can really affect our reputations, our relationships, even our mental well-being.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really important to understand the full scope of this problem.
Yeah, so let's start by examining why we as users fall for these scams in the first place. What makes us vulnerable?
You know what? I've often wondered that myself.
Right.
I consider myself a pretty skeptical person overall.
Yeah.
But I'll admit there have been times when I've almost fallen for something that seemed too good to be true, Well,
one of the key factors is the illusion of authenticity that social media creates. You see profiles with thousands of followers, professional photos, and engaging content, and it's really easy to assume that they're legitimate.
Right. It's like we're almost conditioned to trust what we see online, especially when it comes to those popular accounts or the ones with, a lot of social proof.
Exactly. And that's where these scammers, they really excel. They know just how to exploit our inherent biases and the very design of these platforms to their advantage.
So they're not just playing on our emotions, they're actually using the way our brains are wired against us.
Exactly. Let's talk about some specific cognitive biases that make us susceptible to scams.
Okay.
For example, confirmation bias. This is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if it's false.
Right.
So if someone promises you like a guaranteed return on an investment,
okay,
and you're already like eager to believe that that's even possible,
yeah,
you might ignore any red flags.
Oh, yeah. I can see how that would play out. Like, if you really need money right now, you're more likely to believe, like, a loan scam that promises easy approval because you're already looking for confirmation that it's possible.
Exactly. Another powerful one is authority bias. We tend to trust figures of authority even if their credentials are totally questionable.
Oh, I've seen this one a lot. There was this influencer promoting a skincare product, and they were claiming that it had miraculous anti-aging properties. And they even had a doctor's coat on in their videos and everything.
Did you believe them?
I almost did, but then I did some digging and I found out that they weren't a real doctor at all.
Oh, wow.
It was just all part of their marketing strategy.
That's a classic example of how scammers exploit authority bias.
Yeah.
They create this facade of expertise to gain our trust, even if it's completely made up.
What about those scams that create a sense of urgency, like those limited time offers that pressure you into making a quick decision?
Oh, yeah. That taps into our scarcity bias.
Okay.
We tend to value things that are scarce or in limited supply. Scammers use this to their advantage by creating this false sense of urgency, making you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't act immediately.
It's like those flash sales, that disappear in a few hours.
Yep.
They really make you feel like you have to buy now or you're going to regret it later.
Precisely. And then there's social proof.
Okay.
We're much more likely to do something if we see other people already doing it.
Like those online stores that display those pop-up messages that say someone in, California just bought this product.
Exactly. It creates this illusion of popularity, and it encourages you to follow the crowd.
Oh, wow.
Scammers use this by creating fake accounts and bots
Yeah.
to inflate engagement on their posts, making it seem like there are tons of other people already buying into their schemes.
So all these biases are working together to make us more susceptible to scams?
Yes, and the very design of social media itself, with the emphasis on speed and instant connection and emotional responses,
Right.
it doesn't really help. It's not exactly an environment that encourages, careful consideration or critical thinking.
It's almost like we're being primed to fall for these traps.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But now that we're aware of these tactics, we can start to build up our defenses.
So knowing all this about, how our brains work and how these scammers operate, what are some practical steps we can take to protect ourselves? It feels a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
But there are definitely things you can do. Awareness is the first and most crucial step.
Okay.
You're already ahead of the game just by understanding the tactics we've been discussing.
Right. Knowledge is power, but awareness alone isn't enough, is it?
No, you need to couple it with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't take anything at face value, especially online. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
It's funny how we all know that saying, but it's so easy to forget when you're presented with, a tempting offer or a seemingly easy solution to a problem you're facing.
Exactly. Scammers are experts at playing on our desires and our fears.
Right.
That's why it's so important to verify information independently.
Okay.
If someone sends you a link to an investment opportunity, for example, don't just click on it.
Right.
Do some research check if the company's legitimate. Look for reviews. See if there are any news articles about them.
So basically be your own fact checker.
Exactly. And pay attention to the details.
Okay.
Look for inconsistencies in profiles, grammatical errors, overly aggressive sales tactics.
Yeah.
These can all be red flags.
So those act now messages with the flashing banners should immediately raise suspicion.
Absolutely. And remember, it's okay to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
If something feels off, trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
You have the right to be skeptical and to demand more information.
That's a good point. We don't have to just blindly accept what we're told online.
Exactly. Another important step is to protect your personal information.
Right.
Be really careful what you share online, especially financial details or passwords.
And I guess that goes for clicking on links or downloading files from unknown sources, too.
Absolutely. Those can be gateways for malware or phishing attacks.
So we've talked about awareness, skepticism, protecting our information. What about those situations where we do encounter a potential scam? What should we do then?
If you come across something suspicious, report it to the platform immediately.
Even if we're not 100% sure it's a scam?
Yes. It's always better to err on the side of caution. Your report could help them identify a pattern or take action against the scammer.
Right. Because as we discussed earlier, these platforms are often reactive rather than proactive.
Exactly. And even though their response times can be frustrating, every report helps.
Okay, so we report it to the platform. What about legal recourse? Can victims of scams actually get their money back?
It's a complicated issue. While there are laws in place to protect consumers, actually recovering your losses can be difficult.
Oh, man.
The legal process can be slow and expensive, and scammers often operate across borders, making them much harder to track down.
That sounds incredibly discouraging. So what can be done to improve this whole situation?
Well, there are several things that need to happen.
Okay.
First, we need stronger regulations that hold platforms accountable for the scams that occur on their sites.
Mm-hmm.
They need to invest more in proactive measures to detect and prevent scams, not just react after the fact.
So they really need to step up their game.
Absolutely. They have a responsibility to their users to create a safer environment.
What about law enforcement? What role do they play in combating these scams?
Law enforcement agencies need to be equipped with the resources and the expertise to investigate and prosecute these criminals. Cybercrime is a growing problem, and we need specialized units that can stay ahead of the curve.
It feels like a constant cat-and-mouse game, with scammers always finding new ways to exploit technology and vulnerabilities.
That's true, which is why international cooperation is also crucial.
Okay.
Scammers often operate in multiple countries, making it difficult for any single country to effectively enforce laws.
So it's a global problem that requires a global solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to work together to share information, track down criminals, and create a more secure online environment for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about individual responsibility, platform accountability, and the role of law enforcement. What about the victims themselves? What kind of support is available for people who've fallen for these scams?
Well, there are organizations that offer support to victims of scams,
Okay.
providing emotional support, financial guidance, and even legal advice.
That's good to know because I imagine the emotional toll can be pretty significant. It's not just about the financial loss, it's the betrayal of trust, the feeling of being foolish, the shame that can sometimes come with it.
You're absolutely right. The emotional impact of scams should not be underestimated. And it's important to remember that anyone can fall victim to these schemes. It doesn't make you stupid or gullible.
Right. It's more about the tactics these scammers use and how they exploit our vulnerabilities.
Exactly. The more we understand about these tactics, the better equipped we are to protect ourselves and each other.
So in a way, education and awareness are our best defenses.
Absolutely. We need to empower individuals to be critical thinkers, to question what they see online, and to take those proactive steps to safeguard themselves.
And it's not just about protecting ourselves, it's about protecting our families, our friends, or communities as well.
That's a crucial point. We need to spread the word, share our knowledge, and help others become more aware of these dangers.
Because if we can prevent even one person from falling victim to a scam, it's worth the effort.
I couldn't agree more. And that's really what this deep dive is all about, empowering you with the knowledge and tools you need to navigate the complex world of social media safely and confidently.
So we've talked a lot about the negative aspects of social media, but let's not forget that it can also be a powerful tool for good.
Oh, absolutely.
It allows us to connect with people around the world, share information, and build communities.
Absolutely. It's important to maintain a balanced perspective.
Right.
Social media can be a force for good, but we need to be aware of the risks and take steps to mitigate them.
Like everything else in life, it's about using technology responsibly and with awareness.
Exactly. And as technology continues to evolve, so too will the nature of scams and our strategies for combating them.
It's a constant evolution.
Precisely. But by staying informed, adapting our defenses, and working together, we can create a safer and more trustworthy digital world.
We've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive into the world of social media scams. It's been fascinating, but a little unnerving at times.
Yeah, it really has. We've really explored the psychological tactics that scammers use and the vulnerabilities of both the platforms and ourselves as users. And of course, the need for collective action to combat this, as this huge and growing threat.
We've talked about individual responsibility, platform accountability, and even the role of law enforcement. But I'm curious about the role of technology itself. Can technology actually be used to fight back against these scams?
That's a great question. Technology is really a double-edged sword in this whole context. On the one hand, it's empowered these scammers by giving them the tools for wider reach and greater anonymity. But then on the other hand, it also holds the potential to be a really powerful weapon in our arsenal against these threats.
So it's kind of like a digital arms race.
Precisely. As these scammers become more sophisticated, so too must our defenses. We need to leverage technology to outsmart them and create that safer online environment.
What kind of technological solutions are we talking about here? We touched on AI earlier and how it could be used to detect those fake profiles and to analyze the content that just, seems a little suspicious.
Yeah, AI is a crucial tool in this fight. It can analyze those massive amounts of data, identify patterns that humans might miss, and flag potentially fraudulent activity in real time.
Yeah.
But it's not a silver bullet, Yeah. We also need to explore some of those other emerging technologies like blockchain and decentralized identity verification systems.
I've heard so much about blockchain, but mostly in the context of cryptocurrencies. How could it be used to actually combat scams?
Well, blockchain's applications actually extend far beyond crypto.
Okay.
Its decentralized and immutable nature makes it ideal for secure record-keeping and identity verification. Imagine a world where your digital identity is stored on a blockchain, not controlled by any single company or government. This would make it so much harder for scammers to create fake profiles and impersonate others.
That's fascinating. So it's kind of like having this digital fingerprint that can't be forged.
It's exactly. And decentralized identity verification systems allow individuals to control and share their own data rather than relying on these centralized authorities. This could help reduce the risk of data breaches and identity theft, which scammers often exploit.
It sounds like these technologies could really shift the power dynamic, putting more control back in the hands of individuals.
Absolutely. It's about empowering users to protect themselves and create a more secure and trustworthy online ecosystem.
That's encouraging to hear. But I imagine implementing these technologies on a large scale presents its own set of challenges, right?
Of course. There are definitely technical hurdles and privacy concerns and even some regulatory obstacles that all need to be addressed. But the potential benefits are significant, and I really believe these technologies will play an increasingly important role in the fight against online scams in the years to come.
So it's not just about being vigilant as individuals, it's also about pushing for the development and adoption of these innovative solutions.
Precisely. We need a multi-pronged approach that combines these technological advancements with robust regulations, effective law enforcement, and, of course, educated and empowered individuals.
It's a collective effort that requires collaboration between, the tech companies, governments, researchers, and individuals.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in creating a safer and more trustworthy digital world.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today, from the psychology of scams to the potential of these emerging technologies. It's really been a deep dive into a complex and evolving issue.
It really has. It's been great discussing this with you. I hope our listeners feel a lot more informed and empowered to protect themselves.
And remember, everyone, knowledge is power. The more we understand about these scams, the less likely we are to fall victim to them.
Stay vigilant, be skeptical, and don't ever be afraid to ask questions. Your online safety is worth it.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe.
This is DigitView.